Hello everyone, and in this lesson we're going to make a procedural radio. So I kind of realized I'd never really made like a fully procedural asset, okay, that you can sort of use in your scenes or something. So I was looking around and I found this this design for a radio from a company called Braun, and it's actually pretty old. This is from the 1950s. It looks really good. So I kind of figured this is simple enough, but it gives you enough things to sort of just make a procedural asset. So what we have is, there are three things that give me full control over this. I have the length of it, so I can just keep making it as long as I want. Okay. And I can even go smaller. If I go below a certain size, the grill will disappear and I'll just have this left. And then I have the height of this, which I can, do that. And then if I bring it back, then I have, in the resample value, I have the option to kind of, adjust the size of this, make it bigger or smaller. So if I get it to like that size and now I start to increase this, see, your dial is now like really huge. Okay. All right. So I'm going to model it in this file itself. So what I'll do is I'll just take these two lines because those two are the ones that I really need. There's also going to be a line for depth, but that's not as important. Okay, because we're not modeling the back of the radio, so you don't really need to worry too much about the depth. Okay, so starting off with the main line, let's call this width, okay, and we'll call this height. Okay, so what we want to do is, if I was to sort of explain this, is I have this width line, and what I want is to break it up into two sections. Like one section will remain more or less like a fixed size. So this is where my controls are going to be. So this is my dial and like a couple of knobs. And then this is where I'll have the speaker grill. So the idea is that once the size of the control area is defined, the other part of the line can keep extending as much as I want. And that will also allow like the speaker grill to keep extending. Okay. But what I also want is that the control point should be definable so that if I want to sort of extend the control area, like if I want to sort of stretch out the knobs or have more knobs, then that should also be possible. Okay. So, but then the rest of the line can keep extending and we can have as many sort of speaker grills as we want. Okay. So in order to do that, we're going to start off with a resample node. And with the resample, we can define a length. So let's say if I define the length as 0.4, then what I'm saying is that each one of these segments is 0.4 units in length. And then as I keep adjusting this, it will keep adding, like, let's say if I make it 0.5, that will be easy to understand. See, so this is 1 in length, and then, the distance here is 0.5. So you get like 2 breaks. And then as I keep increasing this, see, it's sort of like once it crosses 1, it adds 2 more points, but then it won't add till it gets to like 1.5. And see, when it exceeds 1.5, it adds, more points. So at every 0.5, it will keep adding more points. But this isn't what we want, because what's happening is sort of like, you'll get like a flicker, like this part suddenly becomes too small. So what I want is that the value of 0.5, like till it extends till 0.5 will be fixed, and then it should continue ahead regardless of how long it is. Okay. So you need to do two things to do that. Okay. Change the measure from a long arc to a long chord. And what this does is it sort of makes it almost fixed. So if it goes from below 0.5, it will just disappear. Okay. So it will be 0.5, and then at 1, the next segment will show up. And then at 1.5, the next segment will show up. So it'll keep going like that. But this is not useful either. What we want is we want the line to sort of smoothly extend. So turn on this button, which says maintain last vertex. And now we have what we want. See, so now what happens is like it's small. At 0.5, the next segment adds and that extends. And so it keeps extending like that. Okay, so this is perfect. This is what we want. Okay. Now, what I want is like this should be one line, and then all of this, like no matter how far I extend it, should be a single line, like none of these segments in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to take convert line, and we only care about the first segment, that is important, and then all of this should be just like one object. Okay, so if I take a look at this here, I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, but I can just take a split, and what I want to do is I want to split 0. Okay, so I have this. Now the first thing we want to do is like this is fine. I don't care about this right now. I'll just take a null, and I want to bring out like the rest of it, and all of this should combine into one line. Okay, so what I want to do is, firstly you take a fuse, and you can just fuse this together. That won't help it, but it'll just, you know, like connect all those points together. Now I want to combine all of this back into a single line. Okay, so just take a join. Okay, because you can still see like they're all separate primitives. Like if I check this, it will show you like 4 polygons or 4 primitives. We want it to be like one primitive. Okay, so come in here and click on join. See, so that will, like, you know, combine all of this. If you want, you can just turn on only connected, so that will ensure. Even if you don't do the fuse, it's fine, because the points are fused anyways, because they're like literally one on top of the other. But we'll keep the fuse. Now what I want to do is I just want to get rid of all the points in the middle. Okay, so just take a facet node, and I can just say remove inline points. So now what I've gotten is, if I merge these two together, I have my original line, like I have my initial thing and then all the rest of it. And this gives me what I want, which is I can just take this, see. So it's small, like this is the control area, and then this will keep extending, and you'll just get like one long stretch. Okay, so this is done. Now let's just give it some, some height. Okay, so I'm going to just take a copy to points. So we'll take a copy to points, and I'm just going to copy, like this is my height. So I'm going to copy this over here, and we can just take a skin. So this gives me my geometry, and then I'll duplicate the same thing here and a skin. See, so we have, like if I merge these, I have the basic body setup done. So I can just take this, see, so this is, the basic area, and then it extends. And now this value in the resample becomes the dividing line. Okay, like how big or how small you want it to be. Okay, now I just want to give it some thickness, but before we do that, I want to round off, like, these two corners. Okay, so what I can do is I can fuse these. Like there are a bunch of ways in which you can try to do this, but this is without doing any kind of vex or whatever, or even making, any kind of complex grouping. Okay, so just fuse this, and then I can take a divide. I just want to turn this into a single rectangle. So take a divide and turn on remove shared edges. So this will make sure that the center line is gone. And then I want to get rid of these 2 points. So just take a facet and turn on remove inline points. Okay, so now what we have is like a single object. And I want to use these 4 points to round off the corners. So just take a small sphere. Okay, so just do copy to points and copy this on all 4 corners. And now what I can do is I can take this back here, like these 2 skins, and I can type in group and one for this skin. Okay, like we'll bring it here, and this will be points. I'll call it round, and we want to select bounding regions and bounding object. See, so this will select, like, those 2 corners, and I can take a poly bevel and I can bevel this. So I can take round and make sure you keep it to points, because even though it says guess, but it can't guess it. So just, give it a little bit of rounding and give it some segments. So this is done. And then we need to do the same thing for the other side. So just do Control C, Control V, just bring in, this particular skin. See, so now we have done the other side. And now I can merge these, and this will form my final, front face. So there you go. Okay. And now I can sort of, I'll just save this. And if I sort of adjust it, see, you'll get a small issue when it comes really close. So make sure you don't do that. Like if you bring it really close over here, you can see that tiny little problem happening. Maybe you can get rid of it by like a measure. Okay, like we can try and do that. Like when it gets really small, I could probably take a measure, and we can measure the area. So let me just, I hadn't done this in my original version, so this is completely new. So I'll do a split pane left right, and let's turn on the geometry spreadsheet, primitives. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we can try to do this, right? So let's just check this once. Like what point does it show up? Yeah, so at some point it turns into like, like it's only 1, but at some point it turns into 2. So we just need to check like, when does it turn into, yeah. So, okay. So somewhere around this point, it's turning into like, 2 objects. So 0.01, we can say like if we can select by the area attribute and then delete that. Okay. So I can just take a group by expression, and we can say at area less than 0.02. See, so it selects that, and let's just do a blast. We'll call it small. Yeah. And we'll delete small. Okay, so what should happen is hopefully that problem should get resolved. See, so we have this, and then, yeah, okay, that's good. So you can get rid of that. Because what had happened was like once it crashed, when it got like really small, and it suddenly just crashed. Okay, so that's good. Once it gets too small, it'll just disappear. Okay, so now let's do the simple thing first, which is we will take care of the speaker grill, because this side is there's more stuff here. So I have this, which is fine. Now what I want to do is I want the speaker grill in like a small area over here. So this same line, I can just take this out over here, and I can use a carve. So the carve can essentially decide, how big or small the speaker grill should be. So I'll keep that here. And this I'll again do a copy to points. So Control C, Control V. I am terrible at naming stuff. So when I upload the file, I'll try to name all of this, like what area is doing what. But if you're following the tutorial along, just, name your nodes. I'm terrible at that. So this is not a tutorial on how to organize your nodes. Okay, do not follow that aspect of my teaching, because I'm terrible at it. Okay, so yeah, I can just plug that in over here. So I'll get this, okay, which is great. Yeah, but we don't want it that long. Okay, so just take, what we can do is we can simply just take a transform here. We can also do a carve, like if you want it to be controllable, we can do a carve here as well. Okay, like I'll do both. Okay, so I can do like in the pivot transform, I can do a $CX, $CEY, and $CEZ, and then I can just sort of scale it down. So this is great. Okay. Or what I can do is I can just take a carve node, and I can do that too. Like I can just, control it with a carve node. So I can just define like you want it close to that side, or you want it close to this side. You can, you can do that also. But we don't want like 2 of these, right? We want like many of these. So the simplest option is you can just take a resample here on this, on the height. Okay, and then this becomes like, we can probably just change it to maximum segments, and this becomes your, speaker grill. So what we do is we take this and take a sweep and set it to ribbon. Okay, set the surface shape to ribbon. We don't want any segments. Come into roll and we'll roll it like 90 degrees, minus 90, and just make it thin enough so that they don't intersect. So make it like that. If you want it fancy, we can try to bevel this. Okay, like what I can do is I can just take a poly bevel and we can round it off so it looks a little better. So I'll set this to points. I don't need this. And I can just, make it rounded like that. See, give it some segments. Okay, and then I can just merge this together. So this is my, like after the poly bevel, and I can come in here and we can take a merge. So I can merge these two together. Okay, but we need to boolean this. So the simplest option is just take a hole. So we can take a hole and there you go. Okay. Now the great thing about this is that you can also do it, you can also have like perforations, like this is like straight lines, but if you want like circular dots, you can do that too. Like what I can do is here in the copy to points, like after this is done, I can do a resample. But the problem with the perforations is it gets slow, because if you're trying to do like 50 holes, or like as you start to stretch it, you'll get like more and more holes. It'll slow down the process. Okay, so you can do it, just remember that it'll slow it down. Okay, so I can just take this and maybe, make it like that. And then I can take a circle and I can do a copy to points. So the circle will copy there, make it like 50 and really tiny. Let's make it 25. And we can use this instead, so I can just come in here. Let's put in a switch. So we have both the options, like I can just switch it to this. So if I come in here and I can just, I can take this and I can switch it to that. See, so you'll notice like there's a bit of a slowdown. And what we do then is we bring in this guy here. Like I can just do an alt click, and so now if we start to adjust this, see, so this becomes, as it becomes smaller, the number of points disappear, and then it just, see, so we can do this, but then if it goes really long, you'll see like now it's slowing down. Now it's slowed down a fair bit because it has to calculate all of those holes in there. So it's still calculating. So this is a bad idea. Yeah, see, so now it generated those many holes in there. Okay, it looks good, but yeah, it will take time to calculate. So I wouldn't recommend this. Like the straight lines is simpler. Okay, so I can just, if I take this back, it'll just be, because it's like straight lines, like no, it doesn't matter how long it gets because the cut will always remain the same. So this is always fine. See. Okay, so the next step is we will give it some depth, and then we also want to round off the front and the back. All right, so in order to give it some depth, I'll take another line and let's call it depth. And let's color this. Okay, and what we'll do is this will push in the Z axis in the negative. So we'll make it -1 in Z, and I'll make it small enough. Yeah, I think 0.4 is good. And what we want is, we want this to get some depth, but I can't exclude this because these holes will sort of go all the way through. So what I want to do is, we will probably need like 2 of these, like one is here, before we do all the holes and everything. So we'll merge these 2 together. So, this panel and that panel. And we are going to fuse them and then take a divide, and we'll get rid of this line in the middle. Otherwise, like when you extrude it, you'll get like a thin polygon in the middle. Okay, so just take a divide and then I can just get rid of remove shared edges. Okay, but we want to keep this point because when we merge everything together, we want something to fuse over there as well. So this is fine. And then I can just take this line and I can do copy to points. Sorry, this comes in here, that goes in there, and take a skin. So this will skin it and we will reverse it. Now the front will be this side. Okay, like which is this, but we need something for the back. Okay, so I'll duplicate this copy to points and we just want to keep the back polygon. So that should be point number 1. And this should also get reversed because we will have to merge everything together. Okay, so when we merge it, it should look like this. Okay, like if you don't reverse it, like that polygon will be facing inward. So make sure you reverse it. And then we merge, all of this. So this is fine. Now we fuse it. So this will become like one piece of geometry. Just take a slightly lower value because we're playing at very small sizes. So we can just make it, like it might cause an issue here, like if you look at this, see, this is where, see, like it causes problems with that. So make it like 0.0001. Okay, and now what I want is I just want to bevel like this edge in the front and that edge at the back. So we can take a group and we'll call it bevel. Set this to edges and say include by edges minimum angle, and there you go. Okay, like we can make it slightly higher. And so you're only selecting the front and the back. Okay, like if it's too low, it will start selecting like these values as well, but we don't want those. So keep it over 20, it's fine. And then I can take a poly bevel and I'll pick up bevel and just, like round this a bit, give it some nice rounding. And now we'll just take care of the colors. So I'll just take, we'll take another group node. I'll separate out the front. So I'll call this front and I'll select by normals facing in the Z and just lower this angle. See, so you're only selecting like that area. And then I can just do a split. So take a split and we want to split the front. See, and I'll give it a color. So if you look at this, see, the front is white and the rest of it is sort of like a green or a bluish green. So I'll keep it slightly grayish. Yeah, just like there. And then I can take this side and I'll make it, and I can merge these together and we have the basic radio setup. So if I just, let me just make the background dark. So I can just take this and, make adjustments, see. So you do get that, like you still get a small bit of an issue here. Yeah, we might have to do something again, but it's fine for now. Okay, like we'll take care of it later. Yeah, see, so when it gets too close, it starts causing issues. So don't get like too close to that. It'll have some issues. Like I'm pretty sure you're not going to keep it like that small, but if you keep it there, then you can sort of try to adjust, this particular, length, and that'll take care of it. But yeah, there we go. So we have our, basic stuff done, and I can just give this a slight thickness. So I can just come in here and I can give it a thicken. So take a labs thicken and I can just drop it in there. This is like way too much. So make it 0.002. See, so that will be like, yeah, just enough. And I can do the same thing here. Yeah, so now we have like a proper body for this. And as a final touch to this, I can give it a small bit of a bevel. So I can, let's take this again. I can just take this same, you know, Control C, Control V. Except I'll make this, we'll call this bevel A. So let's plug this in. See, so it's only selecting like, you know, these guys, which is good. And we want this to be like 0.0001. So like a really small bevel. See, so you get like, when you render it, you'll get like a nice rounding, like you have like two panels stuck together. Okay, like even this looks nice. And lastly, in order to just take care of the shading, because you can see like, you know, you have stuff stretching out like this. So you can see over there, just take a normal node and we can set it to face area. Yeah, and make it about 30 degrees. So that will make sure that, you know, everything looks fine. Okay, so this is as far as like, you know, the basic body is concerned. So the next lesson, we will start building up the controls for this.